Hey folks, well, here we go again. We spoke last devotion about the suffering and the comfort of God. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 1:4 that God comforts us in all of our affliction. He's the God of all comfort in the previous verse. In the 5th verse, he speaks of the sufferings of Christ. He says, just as the sufferings of Christ are ours in abundance. Now, I don't know what you're going through, and perhaps you're not going through anything that's of any major consequence. But if you're not now, you will at some point. We're in a conflict. The Bible's very clear on that. In the New Testament, we wrestle against things that we can't even see in Ephesians 6:10 and on. This is just the way it is. We're going to have experiences that everyone else has, and not has is. That's just bad grammar, man. Anyway, we're going to have experiences that everyone else goes through. We're going to experience the same process of decay that every other human being has experienced and those that have gone before us. But in the midst of this, as believers, Christ is our shield. I find it interesting Paul calls it Christ's sufferings. Now, I'm not saying that a lot of the stuff he went through, obviously persecution, was the result of his relationship to Christ, but I think it was far greater than that. He even says in 2 Corinthians chapter 12 that he had a thorn in his flesh who was an angel of Satan that was given to him to buffet him, to beat him up. That was a physical problem, most likely a physical phenomenon that he had. It was in his flesh, so apparently that was suffering. When he spoke in Romans chapter 7 about, in verse 13, of the law being perfect and holy and good, and he was alive once until the commandment came, you shall not covet. And next thing you know, he's dead. He's coveting, desiring everything. That was a suffering that he experienced as a result of his own humanity. But notice that that suffering had a lot to do with his relationship to Christ. There are many things that we're going to go through, but Christ becomes our shield. It actually becomes, in a way, because we're part of him, the suffering of Christ. I don't know about you, but I've seen loved ones go through some horrendous things. And I thank God for the ones that I've watched as they've gone through it, and it was the suffering of Christ. It was Christ with them. It was as if Christ himself was there as the shield, the buffer, the one that was with him in the midst of the heartache and the trial, the pain, perhaps sometimes even what we might consider to be torment. Christ was with them. Today, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're experiencing, and as we approach the holiday season, for many, this is a time of great suffering. They're reminded of all the things that they don't have, perhaps the loved ones that they've lost, or experiences that they've missed out on, or so many other things. But you know what? Christ, as a believer, these are his sufferings. He was the one that learned obedience through the things that he suffered. He was tempted in all points, yet without sin. He was the one that went through all these human experiences so that he could come to our aid in the midst of these. He is on the right hand of God to literally to pour out mercy on us. It's Christ's suffering. Remember that today, no matter what you go through. You say, well, I deserve a lot of what I'm, as a believer, if you've confessed these things to God and repented, he's faithful and just in 1 John 1:9. And now he suffers with you. The only time he doesn't do that is when we simply will not confess or repent. The moment we do that, he's faithful and just. He forgives and he suffers with us. Wherever you're at today, let it be the sufferings of Christ. let Christ be the God of all comfort in your setting and situation. Till next time, God bless you.